Hey guys, SuperHorrorBro Mike here, and in today's video we take a look at the new gameplay trailer released by Joey Drew Studios for the upcoming follow-up to Bendy and the Ink Machine, Bendy and the Dark Revival. In a previous video I reacted to this trailer and gave it a quick analysis. In the time since uploading that video, I have taken some time to comb over it in further detail and have made some interesting discoveries along the way. This follow-up video will take a more structured and in-depth look at the trailer to see what we can really learn about this new Bendy title, which is now scheduled for a release in 2020. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into a full analysis of the trailer. Bendy and the Dark Revival, like its predecessor, is an episodic horror game. This means it releases in chapters rather than all at once. If then we work under the assumption that this trailer takes place exclusively within the first chapter, it gives us a good indication of the kind of environments we can expect to be exploring, and where exactly central protagonist Audrey's adventure begins. Chapter 1 seems to take place in and around the animation department of Joey Drew Studios, a section of the studio we haven't previously explored. This does make sense, however, as in the original game, Henry skipped most of the animation department when he took a tumble at the end of the game's first chapter. We also know from the novel Dreams Come to Life that the studio is far bigger than the portion we explored in Bendy and the Ink Machine. Finally, if our theory that this cartoon version of the studio is one big simulation within the real Ink Machine is true, then it's possible it may be ever changing anyway. Basically, there are many reasons why the studio we see here in this trailer doesn't align perfectly with the one Henry encountered on his own adventure.
Wow. I don't remember any of this.
So what areas will we explore exactly? Well, from this opening shot we see a sign directing the player to the animation wing known as Animation Alley, as well as an employee locker room. And not only that, an elevator can be seen at the top of this hall, and seems to be fitted with one of those pesky security locks that showed up in the original gameplay trailer, a mechanism that required a nifty electrical tool to unlock. I would wager one of the key objectives in the opening chapter of Dark Revival will task Audrey with finding said tool to unlock access to this elevator. After all, it does lead to the exit, although it's pretty obvious something will stand in her way of escape, perhaps the hulking beast we glimpse at the trailer's end. Later in the trailer we catch brief shots of an area full of picnic tables. Here a sign seems to read Little Devil Lounge, while another reads Daily Buffet. The observant among you may also spot a large cake atop the table. Why is this important? While it may be nothing, remember back to this audio log from Wally Franks we listened to during Bendy Chapter 5.
I got to clean in some of the offices around 2 a.m. last night, and what do you think I find on one of the chairs? A big freaking chocolate cake, just sitting there, practically yelling my name.
So could this be the very same abandoned cake that Wally took a slice from? Or is this simply a portal-themed Easter egg for fans to discover, as we saw with the companion cube reference in the original game? It's far too early to tell, but this may be our first hint that the events of the first game heavily tie into this one in some way. You will also notice on the wall in this shot, we can see what appears to be a save station, the infamous clocking in boxes that adorned the studio in the previous game. So it seems our method of saving will remain unchanged.
Always on time.
With the environments touched on, let's turn our attention to the enemies on display in this trailer. We only catch a few glimpses of them, but these short shots give us a fair amount of information when analysed. The two enemy types shown off in this trailer are the return of the Lost Ones and this hulking brute here. Let's take a look at the Lost Ones first. In the original game, every Lost One had exactly the same appearance, to the point I often referred to them as clones. However, in Dark Revival, they are far more detailed, bearing both the qualities of male and female forms. You can see the subtle differences when we freeze and compare shots side by side. This could mean that these lost ones were born from the machine at a later point than the ones we encountered in the original game, meaning their forms were more refined. Or it may simply be that due to more resources, the team at Joey Drew Studios have worked to improve the look of the models in general. Perhaps it's a bit of both. However, it's the sounds these new and improved lost ones make that come as the real shock here. Check it out. They truly sound like lost souls now, wailing and screeching in misery and anguish. In the original game, the lost ones make very little sound at all, so it seems Dark Revival will really lean into the horror aspect far more than its predecessor. These sounds are really unsettling. Next up is the big one, quite literally. This gigantic ink creature seems to be a boss type of some sort, or at the very least a highly dangerous and powerful regular enemy who will be able to deal and take far more damage than his searcher counterparts. From the way he roars and rears up in this introductory animation, it suggests this enemy will most likely charge the player and try to grab us with his massive hands. Perhaps we will have to dodge at the last minute, so he slams into the wall and dazes himself, allowing us a safe window of attack. This brute seems to be made up from not only ink, but also debris from around the studio. This suggests that it may have formed from one of the larger ink puddles around the studio, those which contained junk floating in them. This could mean that the very ink puddles themselves are no longer safe and can give birth to monstrosities such as this. We had seen hints of monsters rising from the ink during Bendy and the Ink Machine, in the form of the giant searcher in Chapter 3, and of course the giant bendy hand in Chapter 5. This enemy seems to be an evolution of this concept. By now it seems pretty obvious that the Dark Revival is to centre around two female protagonists, Audrey and Allison Angel. Allison appeared in the very first trailer, Return to the Studio, where she had the following lines to say.
Don't be afraid. Don't let the darkness take you. You may walk with angels or cower before demons, but one thing always remains: the choices you make.
The next trailer featured the introduction of Audrey, who seemed confused to find herself awake in this cartoon world and horrified by her body transformation.
This feels wrong. What's happening to me?
Audrey and Allison then each received their own teasers on the official Bendy Twitter account, showing off their new models in Dark Revival, and now the two finally come together for the first time in this trailer. Visually, these new character models look fantastic and animate brilliantly, but outside of the technical aspects, what can we learn about these two characters? Well, it's likely this shot of Audrey is from early on in the chapter, where she glimpses in horror at her new appearance for the very first time. The mirror she peers into is shattered. It seems she broke it in a fit of anger after laying eyes on her inky new look. In a previous video, I mentioned how the secret messages in Bendy and the Ink Machine may have been left by Audrey and not, as we had previously theorized, by Henry. This cracked mirror adds further evidence to that, as we find a broken mirror in Chapter 3 with the message, "Who am I?" scrawled across it. The connection seems to be there, so check out this video if you would like a full explanation on this theory. I'll leave a link at the end of this one. In the first shot, you will notice that Audrey doesn't have the glowing symbol on her hand as seen here in this render, and also here later in the very same trailer. You may have noticed this symbol didn't appear in the original trailer either. So the question is, why not? For an answer to that question, we need to jump ahead to this sequence near the trailer's conclusion. Here we see a beating heart, a heart I originally thought on first glance was suspended inside a shaft within the ink machine itself. I jumped on the idea that this may be the heart at the center of the ink machine, that the ink machine was somehow becoming an organic, living entity of its own, one we must destroy to set everyone free. While interesting as a concept, on closer inspection, it seems this analysis is incorrect. You can see the outline of a thin arm holding this heart, and it does seem to be Audrey's arm. So with this in mind, we can conclude Audrey has the ability to tear hearts from certain enemies, or perhaps simply find them lying around on corpses, much like Henry did during his fetch quest for Alice in Chapter 3.
Tell me, were they still right in your hands?
Alice Angel told us that hearts were required to make her perfect, and it does seem as though Audrey may be another in the long line of Alice clones. While Allison came after Susie Campbell's original disfigured version of Alice, Audrey seems to have succeeded her and is the most powerful and human version yet, although her lack of horns is peculiar and should be noted. The point is that like Alice, it seems Audrey can make the choice to consume beating hearts in order to gain more power and become perfect. This may be how she is granted the power in her arm, and by consuming hearts, the symbol begins to glow. Perhaps the more hearts we collect, the more of the symbol shows up, kind of like a power meter. This hand can then be used, as shown in this trailer, to blast back enemies with a force-like ability. It may be that we can unlock a range of powers as we progress through the game. What is really interesting is the idea of good versus evil here, of light versus dark. It could be that by eating these hearts, Audrey grows stronger and more powerful, but also is consumed by the inky darkness, much like Susie's version of Alice was in the original game. This may mean we can forge our own destiny in Dark Revival, either choosing to play the game without the aid of hearts and that all-powerful arm, but retaining Audrey's humanity, or consuming everything to become a strong force of darkness. It seems Allison is helping us to stay on the path of light, or at least that's her hope. So the story of Bendy and Dark Revival is taking shape now. Allison comes across Audrey, a character freshly born into this cartoon world, and attempts to mentor her as they try to discover a way to escape, all the while avoiding the demon Bendy and the allure of the dark puddles, calling out with great yet evil power if we choose to accept it. And that's it for today's video. Please remember to give it a like if you did enjoy watching, and maybe drop a comment too, as well as subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications so you never miss an upload. This channel specializes in variety horror content, including creepypasta readings, horror gaming facts and theories, and general interest pop culture horror videos. So if you're interested in all things spooky, you'll find something to enjoy here at SuperHorrorBro. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.